Namaste and welcome, beloved mighty companions. And looks like for another couple of nights, we're going to have live broadcasts. And I just follow Jesus. The morning will continue to be, yeah, it might be you, Marga. You'll have to look at your mute settings or your audio settings to make sure that you're set for audio. I don't think that you are. You'd go down in the lower left-hand corner and hit the little up arrow next to the microphone. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, okay, so I'm just going to go ahead. Margaret can't hear, but I'm going to get this going here and hopefully she's going to be able to join us. So we're continuing with the manual for teachers.
Así que seguimos.
We're continuing with the manual for teachers.
Continuando con el manual para profesores.
And we were talking about the shift of perspective.
Hablando del cambio de perspectiva.
And really seeing how much we don't want to change. That's just becoming so obvious. Like consciousness.
Belleza ver lo mucho que no queremos cambiar, eso se está volviendo tan obvio como.
It loves the no. That's the play, to say no and not listen and do its own thing. Sound now good. I'm glad you're in, Marga.
Le encanta saber que solo se detiene el juego para decir no y no escuchar y hacer su propio sonido. Cosa lo bueno, me alegro de que estés en Marga.
It's really seeing that it's all in the mind. He's reminding us this. Jesus, keep showing me it's all in the mind.
Viendo que todo está en la mente, él nos está recordando a este Jesús.
And he's really reminding us on page 18 here about it's just the choice. It's just seeing the choices here right now.
Realmente nos recuerda en la página 18 escuchar acerca de que es solo la elección, es solo ver las opciones aquí en este momento.
That sickness, the admission that sickness is of the mind.
La enfermedad, la admisión que la enfermedad es de la mente.
That it's not outside of us. It's not something happening to us. It's a chosen decision to feel sick.
No está fuera de nosotros, no es algo que no suceda, es una decisión elegida para sentirnos enfermos.
And he's really clear, the world's not doing anything to us.
El mundo no está haciendo nada con nosotros.
It's really good to check in with Jesus on that. Jesus, is the world doing anything to me in truth? Can it do anything to the light of divine being? Here comes Daira.
Bueno.
Is the world truly doing anything to me?
¿Está el mundo realmente haciendo algo por mí?
So just wait for a second. Let Lena get caught up today. Thanks. Good to see Dyer. It's such a joy always to see you with us. And you just see how precious the mighty companions. You like feel a little flower bloom in your heart when you see them. She's not quite set up yet. Marga just said yes. Like, are you feel ready, Dyra? You're still, she is, oh, I was just saying how when you see a mighty, and they're so on purpose, like the happiness is so off the rails. Like when you look at them and you see the love that they bring, the reminder of God's presence within. We're really talking about looking with Jesus to see that the world's not doing something to us. Oh, I see. That's what all the crankiness is about, is the desire to have an experience that the world's doing something. That's the play. It's really seeing that the world can't do anything to us. But then how much we really relish pretending like the world's doing something. And how powerful. It's like finally admitting how powerful our mind is. And I'm seeing it's just a moment by moment. Jesus, what now? What's most helpful for healing the mind? What's most helpful now for healing the mind? That mantra. Letting that be the mantra. It's a helpful mantra. Because we can say the name of God over and over in a lot of spiritual traditions, and all of it's good, all of it's possible. But as long as there's those catacombs down there, I'm asking Jesus, can those mantras override the desire not to see divine light is here? It's like, no, you can, that's why he's got a two-pronged approach where we're saying the thoughts of God. So we're able to have discernment between thoughts of hell and thoughts of God, thoughts of totality. And then going into the catacombs and really doing the shadow work. Seeing where we desire the experience of casting a veil over light and admitting it's all self-imposed. That's what the ego doesn't want to admit. And you can just feel it. You can just feel it. Do not want to see it. Don't want to see it. The three little monkeys don't want to hear about it. Don't want to see it. Don't want to talk Jesus. But it's really not until that's experience here, like just finally, oh my gosh, fully admit you're creating the whole thing. And then even when you see that, I can see some, like you don't want to admit it. It's like the ego goes, well, this is just too much work, this looking. But obviously it's needed. Jesus said it's needed for you. It's just needed in the play of to release ourselves from the play in consciousness, from the idea that death is real. Jesus said, this is a cause for celebration, seeing it's not real. He looks on what he chooses to see, no more or no less. The world does nothing to him. He only thought it did, nor does he do anything to the world because he was mistaken about what it is. You can see how strong those doer things are, wanting to do something. What do I do now, Jesus? I can see that too. I can see, like I was mentioning it, because a lot of things are coming up right now related to this property. And so it's having a talk with Jesus, like, Jesus, I don't have any of the paperwork that I need. You know, what's the gig here? But he's really teaching me about timing and trust. Because all of a sudden, boom, today I have all of it except one thing. It's like, and then Friday, I have someone going who's going to translate in Hookatepec for me. Okay, yeah, Friday's great. Let's go. You know, he's going to go and we're going to go to the government offices. I haven't a clue about it, but obviously I'm going to learn about how it happens and just get on a bus and jump the bus and okay, go pay property taxes and whatever else. Oh, water. So we're going through, let's see, how is healing accomplished? The shift in perception. And we're down at item number 4, at the end of 3 and number 4. So we're about 3, sentence 10. 11. Herein is the release from guilt and sickness both, for they are one. So let's just be clear with Jesus. Is sickness and guilt the same? I hear it from them. Because you guys, we can all hear him on this. Oh, and there's so much love. See, when we're really listening, you just get a love cuddle. And we need as many love cuddles as we can get. In fact, today I was having like a little impulse come up. And I remembered him talking about misguided miracle impulses. So I asked him, is this a misguided miracle impulse? And he said, yes. Okay. Isn't that handy to have him just tell you? So we don't have to wonder about it. Misdirected miracle. All body impulses are can be misconstrued by the body. See, are used by the mind to try to prove separation. But Jesus can use them to prove that we're one with the Father, to show. They can't truly, they can just reflect that we'll put it that way. That's more accurate to say. To show that we can't be separate. So instead of the ego's plan to show that things the body makes us separate, Jesus is showing it to reflect back as a reflection of our mind. Because he was mistaken about what the world is. Jesus, let's just ask him, am I totally mistaken about what the world is? He says, yes. Okay. That's funny. I said, okay, so you can tell, he said, it's nothing. Yeah, he doesn't want to say it. See that the world's nothing. Is it really nothing, Jesus? You can ask him. He says your only happiness comes from actually seeing, because we're so embroiled in all these little storylines and all the little structures to make the world real. It's helpful to be reminded. I really appreciate how he keeps reminding. Yet to accept this relief, the insignificance of the body must be an acceptable idea. Okay, so just give it to us, Jesus. We might as well look. And hear what he has to say. Is the body insignificant? The yes will come so fast. You know, my mom used to say, you know, this will change so fast your head will spin. This is what when you start listening to Jesus. Jesus, is the body significant? Has anybody here ever heard Jesus say the body is significant? I can ask him twice and it's the same answer. It's insignificant. He says your only happiness relies on seeing that the body is totally insignificant. We want to make it significant and important, more important than God. He says, see how much lighter you'll be when you don't hold yourself really well. When you don't hold yourself hostage by the idea of a body. Does the light, see if the light has a body in there somewhere, the infinite light of being. Just notice you can see light immediately because you're light. So just look in the light of divine being in there. You're light before anything. Just say, Jesus, show me what I was before I was born, before I had the idea I could be born. What's that? And does that have a body in it? No. So I'm saying to Jesus, so every time we have a little upset, it's a body upset. It's trying to prove the body real. Every upset, the answer I get is yes. Every upset is trying to prove that the body is real. That is an addiction. No way to get around it. No way. It must be an acceptable idea. That's Jesus, that's the big argument. See, the ego doesn't want to accept that the body is insignificant. It's trying to always make the body important. And that's how it does it, trying to have the body have aches and pains. I just released a lot of tension. Just looking releases tension. With this idea, is pain forever gone? So let's just be clear with Jesus. Go in there. We're going to look in the light. Is it true in the light of divine being and honesty of God that pain is forever gone when the body's insignificant? And here the answer, yes. Oh my God. The only way for pain to appear is if the body's significant. Jesus says yes. And so I'm asking him, so Jesus, the tiniest little twitch is making the body significant? The answer I get, yes. Okay. That's making the body more important than God. He says, yes. Okay, let's start there. We might as well know, the body. He doesn't say, I mean, you start seeing, right, after so many times reading this book, and then you come back in there and you see he doesn't give any room at all. There's either truth or truth, and that's the only way it can be for us to recognize and celebrate happiness. The insignificance of the body must be an acceptable idea. So Jesus, do I have an experience? I have a desire for experience where the insignificance of the body, I'm resisting admitting the insignificance of the body. Okay, I'll take a yes on that. Oh, just ask for a miracle. Can I have a miracle for that? I'm not fighting happiness anymore. Every now and then it comes up, but might as well just say, Jesus, you're right. It's going to be much faster when he's right all the time. Okay. We start laughing more because we see we're doing it. We're playing the I'm going to do it game. I'm going to have pain and suffering. No matter what you say, Jesus, I want pain. And that's what we're saying when we don't follow the Holy Spirit. No matter what, I'm going to have pain. I am not following the Holy Spirit. It's to keep pain and suffering. Now, if that is an argument for, sitting there when my baby, he reminds my baby brother, well, he's not a baby anymore, of course, but when he was little, I don't know what this was, but he would pound his head. He'd sit on the floor. He was like 2 or 3, and he'd sit on the floor and get mad and pound his head on the floor. But it's really no different from what we're doing. We're sitting on the floor and pounding our head going, God, I just have no idea why I have this headache. Because we're choosing a body over God. Oh my God. With this idea, pain is pain forever gone. Okay, Jesus, I want to look at the slightest idea that the body is significant. Will you show me any of those? I'm willing to see them like full Monty. See, it's all that wanting energy underneath awareness that makes the body perceive like it's dense and real. It powers the delusion. The wanting energy powers the delusion, even though it's not doing anything. We can want as much as we want to want. That's where you start getting really, you start getting just laughing ridiculously hard, because no matter how much we want a body, you just want it so badly and duke it out with Jesus and not follow. And then you just look and there's the light there, just there. It's just not going anywhere. But then, okay, and then the little I, me thought rises, I, me body thought rises. And it's like, it goes right to story. You can just watch it. It entertains itself with a little story about what's happening and a future. It comes up, and then it, like right in the middle of the deepest of the deep looking in the catacombs. And suddenly there's that urgency to call somebody you haven't talked to in 30 years. But with this idea goes also all confusion about creation. Creation being light. True creation is light, expression of divine light. Is as it is, exact like it is. And I remember that Muji would say that in satsang, because when you first even notice the holy instant, the experience here is like, okay, there's light here. You know, and I could see that very early on. And I've said this before, at least 2 years ago. Okay, so it's got to be 7 years now. How long does it take this to... And I kept getting directed to go to headlessway.org, obviously, but it took me a while. But then I went, and you do the little exercises, and it's like, I don't get this at all, where you point to your knee and go, okay, you look at your knee and it's got a color, like you're wearing a pair of pants, and you point to it and you go, okay, that knee has color. And then you point to your chest and go, okay, the finger is pointing at a color. And then you come up like this, point, and you notice there's nothing looking out. As I've said a couple of times, I showed that to my niece, and she goes like this. I said, like, points back. Now, I didn't get it. It took me just for exactly what Jesus says. We don't want to see that there's nothing looking out, you know, the headless way. That's why they call it the headless way. There's nothing looking out. There's an idea that there's a person in there looking out, but there's absolutely abjectly nothing. And my niece goes, okay, I said, what do you see? All is forgiven. I was 7 years old. That was humbling. So, okay, so we can recognize that there's light. And as I've said before, if you don't recognize that there's something here that's timeless and changeless, just drop every idea you have and just keep practicing lesson 44 and some of those other lessons where Jesus says, try to reach the light, go through the clouds and see yourself being lifted up by God. But just recognize, wait a minute, there's something here that's unchanged by time and space that everyone shares. It's immediately recognizable that everyone shares. But as Muji will say in satsang, it's like it's too boring. The ego goes, well, where am I in all of this? You're nowhere in all this because you don't exist. But, and he'll go, you don't know what you found. Because the habit is to create a veil of desire not to see it. And marinating, like Muji suggests, as the light, very helpful. And spend time there, because we don't spend time there. We spend time in thought, worrying about the future, figuring out what the next car we're going to buy, what's our next job, where's our personal development strategy program, and just to sit for a few minutes. Start with, he only starts us off with like 5 or 10 minutes at a time, because he knows we just about blow out to contemplate contemplate true nature, infinite light of being. But you could see it just sitting in light. Yeah, and he's sitting in those satsangs with Muji, and just the smoke starts going. Because it's just the release of those dead energies. And some of it's the release. And again, now we know to ask them, is this a release of this holding on to something? Am I holding on, to piece of personal identity? And now I can look back and he can show me all those plans. Only in purpose. He doesn't take you to a memory unless, one, you ask him and you genuinely want to learn. Then he'll show you a memory. It'll come up. He'll bring it up. And then I ask him, can I talk about it? If it's for me, then, and he says, yes, then there's something else he wants to show me. And so I trust him. And so he's brought up a number of things showing me, okay, this is holding on, this is releasing. And after a while, you become very intuitive where the holding is. That's why looking directly at the desire is so helpful, to release that energetic no, just because we're sitting in love. Again, it's like the little fish in the ocean going around talking to the other little fish. Maybe we have to watch Finding Nemo or something. But he's going around and he's visiting all the other little fish to go, excuse me, can you tell me where the water is? So swimming in water, going, I'm looking for water. And then it goes on a quest to find, water. So you can notice, when you notice the infinite light, and again, if you feel like you haven't recognized it, it's just a play in consciousness, because you're already the light that lights everyone that's born. You just have a little conversation with Jesus. What decision am I making not to see that there's something here? It's not a thing. There's no thing. That's just light. It's a recognition in the mind. And then it's really helpful, because then you have the contrast between infinite light and no, I'm having nothing to do with you, God. And then we can learn the discernment of where we're saying no, so we can drop it. With this idea is pain forever gone. But with this idea goes also all confusion about creation. Does not this follow of necessity? Place cause and effect in their true sequence in one respect, and the learning will generalize and transform the world. Cause, we're the effect of God. We're now. Cause and effect being the same is now. The simultaneity of time in the light of divine being is time simultaneous in the light. You'll see it. You recognize it, that it's simultaneous, and that you're actually never in time. Time is the thought. That's what thoughts are made for. You notice how one thought follows another? That's a trick. to make it look like there's a timeline. It's the timeless pretending like time is real. The transfer value of one true idea has no end or limit. The final outcome of this lesson is a remembrance of God. Feels good to get that. Jesus, do I have a desire for an experience where I don't remember God? These are like the little eddies and back currents of consciousness to deny that God is. Not to make consciousness wrong. It's just to see it's not the absolute reality. The absolute reality being light and beyond consciousness. At least the way Jesus describes it. Different teachers describe it different ways. But Jesus is really clear that consciousness is not all there is. It's not what is. The way he teaches it, which I trust him because it's most helpful for me. It's like Nisargadatta Maharaj also talked about there being consciousness, then absolute reality, but that wasn't absolute reality. Absolute reality is no thing. I'm asking Jesus about consciousness. Consciousness is thingness. I'm just making sure I'm clear. It's thingness. It's playing in the things. Is consciousness untrue? You can ask them. It's not true. The only thing that's true is the absolute reality, which is infinite light. We know this. That's the hilarious thing. Oh, so I was talking about how, so you notice this light, and it's like, well, that's kind of interesting, Jesus, but where is the supreme happiness if light is all there is? Because of the continual habit, the crack cocaine consciousness to play like it's not light. And so therefore it's suppressed, supreme happiness suppressed by the desire not to experience it. Now that's seeing where the buck stops. So let's go ahead and ask Jesus, do I have a desire not to experience supreme happiness? That's when it gets humbling. It's like, I don't understand. I really want happiness. No, we don't. No consciousness. No. Consciousness is a big fat no to supreme happiness. It's a big play of fragmentation. But as it unifies, it becomes recognition of the one. It's celebration of the one. It laughs more because it doesn't take the fragmentation seriously. It's no longer invested so much in fragmentation. It sees things in wholeness. That's what the gift of following the Holy Spirit is. It's seeing everything in wholeness. I just said, Jesus, we can never be happy without seeing everything as wholeness, whole and holy and complete. And he says, yes. The final outcome of this lesson is remembrance of God. What do guilt and sickness, pain, disaster, and all suffering mean now? Having no purpose, they are gone. That's part of the ego's play to make it seem, so he's saying yes, make it seem inconceivable for pain and sickness to be gone. Pain, sickness, and disaster, and all suffering. So Jesus, do they have a purpose? They only have the purpose you would give them because they have no purpose in the kingdom. And with them also go all the effects they seem to cause. Cause and effect, but replicate creation. See in their proper perspective without distortion, without fear, they reestablish heaven. So it's just the willingness. the Father and the Son being one, is cause and effect the same. Jesus, is it possible by any tiniest of the tiny oochie bit for me to be apart from God? In the honesty of God, is it possible for me to be separate from the Father? It's just keep hearing him say no. Do I still like to pretend like I'm separate? Do I really relish having the experience of being separate? And you just keep working with him till he says no. You don't. Because he's the one who knows where all the desires to play the game of separation are hiding down there in the dead zone. So now we're going to look at, make sure to see how things are going. Might start a couple of sentences in the Teacher of God. Here. If the patient much changed his mind in order to be healed, what does the Teacher of God do? I can't wait to hear what he's going to say. Can he change the patient's mind for him? Certainly not. For those already willing to change their minds, he has no function except rejoice with them, for they have become teachers of God with him. He has, however, a more specific function for those who do not understand what healing is. These patients do not recognize they have chosen sickness. On the contrary, they believe that sickness has chosen them. Okay, let's check in. Jesus, do I believe sickness has chosen me? Do I have any desire for an experience where sickness has chosen me? And then we just hear him. And then you go with him until it says no. If he says yes, rejoice because it's happy. That level of honesty of God's a really happiness because you see the way out, to cease to choose the little pockets of hell. Nor are they open-minded on this point. The body tells them what to do and they obey. I'm asking him, Jesus, do we relish having the body tell us what to do? Yeah, you know, I'm talking to him, he's reminding me of, you know, if you've ever been in Whole Foods, it's a big, big chain of, got all kinds of like supposedly whole food, like not all food is whole, but that's idea in consciousness. Like if you eat better and you eat more organic and you walk in and there are like 6 or 8 aisles of holistic treatments of all sorts, the smorgasbord of potential ways to quote unquote heal, which is potential support mechanisms to stay dead. I said, Jesus, is that too harsh to say? No. Because we're powerful, infinite beings. So you just go into the store and it was helpful to see it because they're like, I think I've talked about this when I first started taking the course and the first couple of weeks and months into it, all these odd physical symptoms. Well, I was in Whole Foods every day. There's a book, I forget what you call it, but it's in Whole Foods about this thick. And I think it's some kind of naturalist healing book, you know, and just trying every herb and, you know, oatmeal, wheatgrass. Oh, I tried everything really. You know, believe me, I know those shelves well. I probably have them memorized. We also had a co-op and a wonderful little co-op in Madison, man. You just herb concoctions and what concoction's going to work and all kinds of teas. See, I just in this play of conscious night, I guess test everything out. But you start to see when you look at these things with them how, and I'd call them body jobs when we start with the course and we start seeing, wait, the body's like doing all this kind of stuff. But now I see what he's pointing to. The body tells them what to do and they obey. So we want it to seem like, okay, our body needs something and therefore we obey that and we go down to Whole Foods and you go down the aisle and then you're going to hunt for salvation on one of those shelves. I did it, so I can talk about it. But I didn't see it that way. Obviously, it was a plain consciousness not to see that was, I can ask them now and be totally clear on it. That was a shopping for salvation through form, through magic. You can ask them, Jesus, can it ever be found that way? No, it's impossible. They have no idea how insane this concept is. Check. And then I could see the plain consciousness and he's reminded me, then you start telling your friends about, here are all the things that will save me. And including my doctor, I was trying to explain to him, explain to my doctor about what I really needed for healing. And, you know, it was all kind of, that's just the way conscious plays to hold on to personal identity. There's nothing wrong with it. It's innocence, but it's lost deeply in the dream. They have no idea how insane this I didn't have an idea how insane that was. But thankfully, Jesus leads us out to see that is really insane. You cannot find health at the health food counter. It doesn't, it's the antithesis of health because it's the belief in magic. And magic is the antithesis of health. Ask Jesus. Jesus, is magic the antithesis? It can only be that way. It's cause and effect. Cause separate from effects. Something causes something else. That's hell. Hell is cause and effect separate. If they have no idea how insane this concept is, if they even suspected it, they would be healed. Yet they suspect nothing. To them, separation is quite real. So that's all we do every day is question, is separation real? Is this a dream? Is this real? And every time we follow the mind, we're pretending like it is real. So it's not to just say, okay, it's not real. Jesus said it's not real. It's be willing to be shown it is not real, that the body's not real, that the world's not real, so that it's a deep discovery. It's a remembrance of the true, because the ego just will go, well, it's not real, or the body's not real. It'll play its little, denial song. But we want the direct and real experience. Jesus, will you help me with a direct and authentic experience that I am light? I am the light of the world. My function is salvation. To them, God's teachers come to represent another choice which they had forgotten. You know, and it's very interesting to talk to him about this because, you know, it's like, well, Jesus, really, there's no one out there, right? And I'll say, yes, there's no one else. And you'll say, okay, Jesus, so what's this for? It's never for another. It's always for us. It's always for light. It's the form of celebration given for us as light beings to celebrate that we're light and constantly being reminded through our brother that we are light. So we're not saving anyone. We're expressing as divine beings exactly as Jesus gives us to us and releasing the mind from the stronghold, the idea that we can be hostage to the ego. And we really relish that we're hostage to a sick body. A sick body just reflects a sick mind. I'm just asking Jesus, is there any way to get around with that? No. So it's always taking these things back to the mind to look and see and ask Jesus to help us to see the underlying conditions, the desires for the experience that's appearing in form. And that's what I guess you appreciate more and more with each passing day in terms of Course in Miracles, because it really shows you how powerful the mind is. You know, it's one thing, okay, I'm going to do all this shadow work, but Jesus is showing us how powerful we are in the miscreation and how powerful it is to follow divine light for the speedy awakening, a fast means, and how powerful the joining is for washing out the idea that there's someone else out there, and to listen, hear, and follow the Holy Spirit together. So thank you, Jesus, for bringing us together, and thank you for helping me see the things I need to see. All the places where I say no to infinite, and that I have my brother to share that with. I'm grateful. I send you all love. Mucho, mucho love.